Good afternoon and welcome to our Lunch with Mia, Resources for Immigrant Families. My name is Gia Wilkerson and I will be the moderator of today's event. Before we begin, in an effort to reach consumers about future events, we would like to do a quick poll just to see how we all got here today. If you don't see the survey or the poll, that's okay, don't worry. Some versions of the poll may not be available through Zoom. If everyone could just answer the poll to let us know, how did you find out about today's presentation? That would be great. Okay, we're going to give the poll one more minute. We still have people coming in, and we do have guests joining us via phone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Okay, so it looks like everyone has found out either from online or friends and family, which is great. Thank you for the feedback. We have the pleasure of having with us today representatives from Just Neighbors and Maryland Health Connection. Just Neighbors is a nonprofit organization dedicated to serving and supporting the immigrant community of Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Maryland Health Connection is the official marketplace of Maryland individuals, families, and small businesses to shop, compare, and enroll in health and dental insurance plans. Today's event will allow Just Neighbors and Maryland Health Connection to share their resources. Finally, yet importantly, the Maryland Insurance Administration will provide information on insurance fraud and private health plans for those who do not have a legal immigration status. Just a few housekeeping rules. This event is being recorded. Please leave phones and computers on mute for the duration of this event. If you are not presenting, please keep your camera off. If you have a question for today's speakers, please use the chat box and make sure that your questions are addressed to everyone and not the speaker or the host, as we will have a Q&A session at the end of the event.
Si hay alguien que solo habla español, la sesión en español la hicimos en enero y fue grabada. Si desea verla, ahorita mismo vamos a poner en el cuadro de chat el enlace para que puedan verla.
Thank you. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker for today, my colleague, Josue.
Thank you, Gia. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Josue Pineda. As Gian mentioned, I'm a bilingual outreach staffer, and I will be talking to you today about insurance fraud. Before anything, I just would like to let you know that this presentation does not provide legal advice, and you should discuss specific questions with your trusted financial advisor or insurance producer. So who is the Maryland Insurance Administration? The Maryland Insurance Administration, also known as MIA or MIA, is the state agency that regulates insurance in Maryland. The Maryland Insurance Administration licenses insurers and insurance producers, such as agents or brokers, examines the business and practices of licensees to ensure compliance, monitors solvency of insurers just to make sure that insurance companies are financially stable, reviews, approves insurance policy forms, reviews insurance rates to ensure rates are not inadequate, excessive, or unfairly discriminatory, investigates consumers and provider complaints and allegations of fraud, which is what we're going to talk about today. If you feel that your insurer or insurance producer acted improperly, then you have the right to file a complaint. I'll give you some examples of that. If if they have improperly denied your claim or delaying a payment of all or portions of a claim, improperly terminating your insurance policy, raising your insurance premiums without proper notice, or making a false statement, to you in connection with the sale of insurance or processing of insurance claims, and overcharging you for services, including premium finance charges. So let's talk about insurance fraud. Insurance fraud is when an insurance producer, adjuster, or consumer commits a deliberate deception for financial gain. And I want you to pay attention to this fact right now. Insurance fraud is one of the most costly crimes in our country, costing about 40 billion per year nationally. And according to the Coalition of Insurance Fraud, it is estimated that each household pays approximately $1,000 extra in insurance premiums each year to offset the cost of insurance fraud. I would also like to let you know that committing insurance fraud can result in civil or criminal prosecution, jail time, penalties as high as $10,000, or jail time and penalties. Insurance fraud takes many forms. This could happen when completing a false document, making a false statement, an insurance producer pockets a premium, selling an unauthorized insurance, exaggerating a claim, billing an insurer for services that were not provided, and or making a fraudulent claim. The Maryland Insurance Administration takes insurance fraud seriously, and we investigate all referrals of insurance fraud. So what are the kind of insurance fraud, or what is the kind of insurance fraud that is the most common? First, we have auto insurance. This could be fake vehicle damage, being dishonest on an application, and I'll give you more details, and I'll be a little bit more specific with the examples in the next slides. The second one would be workers' comp. It could be done by both employees and employers. The third would be medical fraud. Up to 10% of health insurance expenditures are a result of fraud, per the FBI. A lot of it is billing fraud. A good percentage is seniors on Medicare buying supplemental coverage they do not need. So what is fraud against an insurance entity? This is done by individuals, policyholders, medical providers, or other service providers against an insurance company to receive money by filing a false claim or inflating a legitimate one. And I'll give you some examples of that in the next slide. So this could be done by arson for profit. So let's say a business or home or vehicle is intentionally set on fire by the owner or someone acting on behalf of the owner to collect insurance money. Disaster fraud could be when an individual persuades a disaster victim to claim more damages than it had actually occurred. Creating a fraudulent claim, this would be staging or intentionally causing an auto accident, staging slip and fall accidents, claiming an injury occurred on the job when it did not, falsely claiming a foreign object in a food, or phony burglary or theft. Exaggerated claims, basically overstating the amount of loss. This can include inflating bodily injuries from an auto accident or work-related injuries, inflating the value of items taken during a burglary or theft, inflating a physical damage claim from a minor fender bender, and medical providers inflating billing or upcoding of medical procedures. We also have medical fraud. Medical providers bill insurers for services they do not provide or inflate the bills for services. These scams frequently are connected to automobile accidents or disability claims. And last one, false health claims. This is knowingly making a false statement or representation in a health insurance claim or application by a patient or by a provider to an insurance company or a state health plan or program. And this is very important. Older adults are often targets of insurance fraud, particularly in regard to life and health insurance. Please, I would like everybody to pay attention to what I'm going to say. Be wary of a salesperson or a telephone caller who contacts you unsolicited. The salesperson probably has obtained your information through a mailing list. These people use high pressure tactics. Common tactics are like the ones that they say, this is a last chance deal. This is a limited offer. Or they just attempt to pressure you to sign forms without reviewing them. Also be wary if someone, a salesperson or a telephone caller urges you to cash in an existing annuity or life insurance policy to buy a new annuity. Life insurance policy or other investments, generally, annuities and life insurance are worth more the longer you keep them. Changing to a new annuity or policy may cause you to lose money over the first 3 to 5 years. You also may be charged a penalty if you withdraw money from your annuity early. You will need to discuss the tax consequences of early withdrawal with your tax advisor. They also claim to be from Medicare, Social Security, or another government agency. An insurance producer or broker who claims to be associated with the government is breaking the law. They also probably want to sell you a package policy that includes several different benefits, some of which duplicate a policy you already have or include coverage you just don't need. Be wary when they want you to pay cash or make a check, money order payable to him or her. Never pay with cash and always request a receipt. They want you to sign forms that contain false or incomplete information or are blank. Wants to fill out the forms for you, make sure you read over and understand all the forms that you will sign. Once again, if someone wants to fill out the forms for you and sign, you have to make sure that you read and understand all the forms that you will sign. If you are unsure whether an insurance product makes sense to you, then reach out to your friends or family member or from a trusted accountant, attorney, or financial advisor before you make an insurance purchase. And so now that we said what insurance fraud is, I would like each and one of you to take some tips to protect yourself from insurance fraud. Slow down, take your time, and ask yourself, does the price seem too good to be true? Also, pay by check or credit card and make sure that you receive your insurance cards and documents in a timely manner. And if you haven't so, then you can contact the insurance company directly. Use caution with unsolicited contacts. Deal only with licensed insurance producers. They must maintain proof of being licensed, and you have the right to ask to see it. Keep and review your insurance documents, including a copy of your insurance policy with endorsements and declarations outlining your coverage and its limitations. So make sure that you save all of these documents once you obtain an insurance company or policy. And last but not least, you are encouraged to report insurance fraud activities to the Maryland Insurance Administration's Insurance Fraud Division. And one of the great things is that you do not need to give your name. This will be an anonymous call. You just simply call to 1-800-846-4069. If you don't want to call, you also have the option to email fraud referrals by sending a completed forms to fraud_referrals.mia@marylandspelledout.gov. And you see on the screen our Maryland Insurance Information's contact information. This would be our phone number on the screen. We have two, so you can either call 1-800-492-6116 or 410-468-2000. We are also on social media. You can find us on Facebook. We have a Spanish website for Facebook, and then we also have the English page on Facebook. We are also on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you, everyone.
Hostway, thank you for that great information. Our next speaker is Ms. Julia Burke, Senior Attorney at Just Neighbors.
Hello. As shared, my name is Julia Burke. I am one of the attorneys at Just Neighbors, and I'll be presenting a summary of immigration statuses, how to obtain help and avoid scams. Yes, again, I'm a senior immigration attorney for our Maryland and DC program at Just Neighbors. Next. So at Just Neighbors, our driving mission is to provide high quality, low or no cost legal services to people who otherwise would not be able to afford them. All of our clients are at 200% or below of the federal poverty guidelines. We have a general fee of $100, but we usually waive that. We engage in education efforts beyond our legal services, like these presentations. We try to build cross-cultural communities through using volunteers and directly engaging with clients in our immigration clinics. And we partner in advocacy on for immigration laws or rules and key issues that impact our immigrant client base. Next. And how we help is through our legal services. In 2023, we served nearly 1,400 clients with over 2,200 cases. We file fee waivers where it's available. 80% of our cases result in work authorization. We help clients escape violence, and in 20% of the cases, we end up clarifying that there is no legal pathway to documentation, and we end up advising the clients of their rights. We do have a longer history in Northern Virginia, and we've been about 4 years here in Maryland and DC. So here's a quick summary of immigration statuses. You'll see the next slide shows an incredibly convoluted chart. Most people don't realize how restricted and complicated the immigration system is in the US, or how long it takes to obtain a green card. There isn't one simple path to immigrating here, and for most, the process takes years, sometimes over a decade. As you can see, there's lots of complicated individual factors that can go into whether someone can come here. And when we say immigrant, we mean someone who's coming here with the intention of building a life, not just coming here for a temporary student visa or coming here just as a tourist. These are immigrants are considered people who are trying to change their residence. And basically only 1% of the people who want to come to the United States actually have a legal way to immigrate here. There is no line to get into. It is incredibly restrictive and complicated to come to the United States as an immigrant. Next. There's really only 3 paths to obtaining a legal status: through having family here in the US that are US citizens or green card holders, through employment, and Just Neighbors doesn't really do either of these 2 options. These tend to be people who have more than the income guidelines of what we represent. We focus on the humanitarian reasons that people can immigrate to the United States. Next. So I'm not going to go into detail on this slide. We have a whole presentation for basically this slide alone that's about an hour long, where we break down the difference between US citizens, different types of permanent residency, different types of temporary visas. But to summarize quickly, there are rights and benefits that come with being a US citizen or even a permanent resident, mainly that you can apply for your relatives to come to the United States. However, just because you can apply doesn't mean it won't take 20 years or more sometimes, depending on what country your family's from, for your application to be approved. And that depends on the relationship, whether it's a spouse or a child, a sibling, or that changes how much time you're waiting. If it's an adult child or a child under 21 and unmarried, that changes the time someone's waiting. So in the United States, there are US citizens, and then the permanent immigration statuses are someone with a green card, a lawful permanent resident. And even if your green card expires, your status does not expire. So once someone is a permanent resident, as long as they maintain residency in the US, they are permanently going to have that status. There's two other permanent statuses in immigration, and those are for asylees and refugees. And notably, to qualify for asylum seekers must meet the same strict legal definition as refugees. The difference is that asylum seekers first come to the US and then apply for asylum, where refugees have status before they enter. But to get a refugee status before entering, you have to live in a UN High Commissioner of Refugees recognized refugee camp. If you designated a refugee, of the UN High Commissioner of Refugees, and then be resettled in a third country. And this whole process can take over 20 years. Sometimes the whole generations will change before a family can get refugee status. And considering that the displaced population globally is over 110 million people around the world have been displaced through war, through famine, through earthquakes and natural disasters. Most people don't have that option of waiting 20 years to get to safety, right? To get to a place where you can live and pursue your life. So that's why a lot of people end up going to a new country and then applying for asylum. And so long as this number is so high of globally displaced people, and so long as our immigration laws remain incredibly restrictive, there's no simple solution without comprehensive immigration reform. As more and more people, we're going to be facing this pressure of more and more people who are displaced needing to live somewhere. And the US having historically been seen as a great beacon of welcome to our Statue of Liberty, to being just a great country to live in, we're going to see more people coming to try to come to the United States. Generally, many people can come to the US on temporary visas, but these are considered non-immigrant. So somebody who comes as a tourist or student, au pairs, athletes, certain types of employment, they can come as non-immigrants. You'll see under the temporary part of the chart. Those non-immigrant visas are issued to people who can come temporarily. Even those are very hard to get depending on what country you're coming from. And so there are other temporary visas that are humanitarian based. And I'll talk a little more about in detail about these humanitarian visas and how some of them do have a pathway to legal permanent residency. But the third main non-citizen population is the undocumented population. And the undocumented population is made up almost 60-40 by people who have either entered without inspection or have entered on a non-immigrant visa and overstayed their visa. Notably, the right to work in the US is tied to having an immigration benefit. So undocumented people generally have to work under the table, but can still pay taxes through getting a tax ID number. There's lots of people who are undocumented who are paying into taxes, who are paying into Social Security, and they'll never be able to withdraw from it. There are lots of barriers to people who are undocumented from ever getting immigration status, particularly those who entered without inspection. But through some types of status, there are some waivers available for that. Next. So at Just Neighbors, the services we provide are those humanitarian based visas. So the Violence Against Women Act is for victims of domestic violence whose abusive spouse is a US citizen or a legal permanent resident. A U visa is a type of immigration benefit for victims of violent crime who cooperated with police or with the investigation. A T visa is for victims of human trafficking, a severe form of human trafficking, who are in the United States on account of that trafficking. Asylum, again, it's the definition of a refugee is someone who fears return to their home country because of persecution on account of particular traits. There are family-based petitions we sometimes do in connection with other humanitarian-based cases. Adjustment of status are green card applications that we end up doing for people who first started out under humanitarian visa. We also will do naturalization and citizenship applications for those who qualify for our services. And then we also do special immigrant juvenile status. That is specifically for children who are under 21 and unmarried, who were either abused, abandoned, or neglected by one or both parents, and who can't return, or it's not in their best interest to return to their home country. And through that, that protection, that juvenile can get a green card. We do a very limited removal defense that's being in immigration court. And I do have to say, if you do have an immigration court hearing, you need to attend that hearing. You can check by calling the court phone number, or check online to see if you have a hearing coming up. It's always very important to go to any court hearings. We also do some humanitarian cases where there's no pathway to permanent residence. So these are people who get temporary status here in the U.S., where they have to continually renew that status in order to have an employment authorization document or a work permit. And that's DACA, Temporary Action for Deferred for Childhood Arrivals. People had to have been here back in 2007 to qualify for DACA. So it's well over time to try to maybe consider that there have been other childhood arrivals since that time who might be eligible for work permits. And there's also temporary protected status, which is designated for particular countries that the executive branch has decided it's not safe for those people to return. And those, I think there's TBS dating back to like 2000 for some countries, but it's still just temporary. It does not lead to a green card. And then there's withholding of removal, which is through removal defense, but that's a little more complicated. That's for someone who can't qualify for asylum, but meets the definition of a refugee or asylum seeker. So next. So we're going to go quickly through how to obtain help and avoid scams. Next. So only some immigrants might qualify for legal status, but all immigrants can benefit from an initial legal consultation. You can verify your eligibility now or in the future. You might not be eligible for something now, but maybe in the future. You can identify any risk factors and how to mitigate them. It can correct common myths or misunderstandings about the immigration system, and it allows you to avoid victimization in the future by immigration scams, and allows you to make informed decisions for the future. And it also, you can ask any questions about how any recent changes in immigration that you've heard through the news or through another source might affect you individually. Next. So who's qualified to offer legal advice? Only attorneys and Department of Justice accredited representatives are able to offer advice. An attorney will be licensed by a state court or licensed by and have to be a member in that state's bar association. Private attorneys charge a fee, and there's also some organizations like Just Neighbors that offer free or low cost services. And there's a link here to where you can find pro bono service providers. And any accredited representatives by the Department of Justice, those will be online. All accredited reps can be found at this link. And then all government websites and that have a lot of information about different types of immigration applications, they're all going to end in .gov, and all immigration forms are free. And you can go to the uscis.gov to find immigration information. Next. So who's not qualified? In other countries, sometimes a notary or notary public has some type of legal ability to offer advice. In the United States, a notary public is only qualified or licensed to verify identity and signatures for legal documents. They're not licensed to practice law or offer legal advice. Don't go to a notario. Don't go to anyone other than an attorney or a DOJ or BIA accredited representative. So your cousin's husband's neighbor who obtained papers in 3 months with a similar case, they're not an expert to offer legal advice because every case is unique. Also, any well-meaning person at your church or a neighbor, anyone who's not an attorney but fills out paperwork on your behalf can actually put you in a worse position and maybe even bar you from getting any sort of immigration relief if they're not an attorney who knows what signing any particular form actually means. And in any television, radio, podcast, or celebrity personality, you have to really think through the sources they're citing for their information, and then think about the goal of that program. And so what are some steps you can take to protect yourself? That's in the next slide. Don't sign any blank immigration forms. Next slide, please. And don't sign any forms that contain false information about yourself or your situation. There are serious consequences for false statements on immigration forms, namely that you might not be eligible for any immigration benefit in the future if you sign, if it is found that you've committed fraud on your immigration forms. Don't pay for any immigration forms. All USCIS immigration forms are free. Don't allow a notary or any other person to keep your original documents. And it's also important to get a legal screening, even if you don't think you qualify for anything, just so you know what you do or do not qualify for, and then you won't fall for any sort of false promise. And then if you're going for any sort of health benefit, instead of deciding for yourself that you don't qualify because you're not documented or because of your status, be honest about your status with that service provider and let them tell you what you qualify. Next. So you can call Just Neighbors for an initial screening Tuesday through Friday, 9 to 5 at this number, or you can go to our website, justneighbors.org/get-help at any time. Next. And we do have a survey. If you want to hold your phone up to the screen and scan the QR code, we have a brief survey for you to do for this presentation. You can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn at Just Neighbors DMV. And thank you for your time. And I'll turn over to the next presenter.
Thank you, Julia, for that great information. Our next speaker is Ms. Jenny Garrison, Outreach Program Manager at Maryland Health Connection.
Thanks, Gia, and great presentation, Julia. My name is Jenny. I'm with the Maryland Health Connection. And if you want to go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about who we are. We are the state's official health insurance marketplace that was created from the Affordable Care Act. You can qualify for Medicaid or a private plan with financial assistance through us. We also offer vision and dental plans, which you can buy together or separately from your health plan. This is just a screen grab of the different ways you can enroll. We have a mobile app that you can access on our phone. It's called Enroll MHC. Our website is marylandhealthconnection.gov. We also have a full Spanish site at marylandhealthconnection.gov/ES. And on the next slide, you can see we also have brokers who can help you get enrolled and a consumer assistance program to get in-person help and call center as well. And what I want to talk to you today are the privacy protections and the eligibility for immigrants to enroll through Maryland Health Connection. So the first thing that I think is important to know is that when you apply through coverage through Maryland Health Connection, we do ask information about your household and your income to determine your eligibility for coverage. But we can't share that information with anyone else. So we do want you to know that your information is private. We can't share it with another agency, and that's protected by law. And as I mentioned, we do ask for your immigration status so that we can determine what type of plan you're eligible for, whether that is Medicaid or a private plan. And then on the next slide, we also know that many families in Maryland have maybe one household member that's documented and another household member that's undocumented. And even though you might have to include all of your household members on the application, you don't have to provide the immigration status for someone if they're not applying. So if a mom, for example, is applying for a child and the child is documented or was born here, but the mom is not, the mom would still include her name, but she wouldn't have to provide her information if she did not want to apply for coverage. So just some privacy protections that we offer when you apply through Maryland Health Connection. And let's jump to the next slide. And one question we do get a lot from the community when we're out is, if I apply for coverage, will this prevent me from getting a different immigration status in the future? And the answer to that is no. And we encourage you to seek the healthcare that you need. And that does not, because we can't share your information with another agency, so that's not going to affect your eligibility to change your immigration status in the future. And then what I want to do is go to the next slide, and I'm going to drop in chat the links to some resources on our website that I'm going to talk through. The first one is the privacy protections. This is a PDF that I'm sharing with you, so you can download it and take a look at it in your free time. And the second PDF is our immigration eligibility fact sheet. All of the statuses that we have listed on the slides, you can jump to the next slide, are available on that fact sheet that I just included in chat. There's many statuses. I think Julia did a great job in highlighting how complex the immigration system is. And because it's so complex, we really recommend that if you're an immigrant or you're working with someone who is, that you encourage them to apply. We have experts at my agency that know all the statuses and eligibility based on status. And so I'm happy to share all that information with you today. And I just would still encourage you to apply to see what you're eligible for versus avoiding it. Because it is very complex. Let's see, eligibility to enroll. You basically, for eligibility for a private health plan through Maryland Health Connection, that's not Medicaid. This would be a private plan. We work with CareFirst, Aetna, Kaiser, and United Healthcare are our insurance companies that we work with. So if you are applying through Maryland Health Connection and you have any type of legal immigration status, you may be eligible. So we really encourage you to apply. As I mentioned, you don't have to give the status of other people in your family that are not applying for healthcare. You also do not need a social security number or a tax ID number to apply for coverage. On the next slide, I think I have about 6 slides that go over some different statuses. So I'll highlight a couple, but again, I dropped in chat fact sheet that lists out all these statuses so you can take a look with a closer lens. But we often see green card holders come in. I think it's interesting as well to note that someone who's applied for a green card may also be eligible. Someone with granted deferred action statuses does not include DACA. Asylees are eligible, refugees are eligible, and then the individuals under the VAWA Act. And let's jump to the next slide. As I mentioned, that fact sheet lists out all of the statuses that are eligible. You can see here a couple are trafficking victims, veterans, temporary protected status, or applicants for TPS are also eligible. And again, these are listed out for private plans. Let's jump to the next slide where you can see a couple more statuses that are also eligible. And similarly, on the next slide, we have many different immigration statuses that are eligible for private health plans through Maryland Health Connection. There's a few slides with all the different visas that are eligible as well. On the next slide, you'll see that. So all of these immigration statuses are eligible to enroll through Maryland Health Connection and receive a private health plan through one of our 4 carriers. On the next slide, you'll also see more statuses. So again, I encourage you to click the link that I dropped in chat where you can jump to the next slide as well. I dropped the link in chat that includes all of the immigration statuses that are eligible to enroll. It's a front and back fact sheet that you can print out and have at your disposal so you can cross-reference it. So those were the immigration statuses for private plans, and then for Medicaid eligibility on the next slide, this is different. So for Medicaid, this is a state program that basically offers free health insurance, free or very low cost health insurance. And for Medicaid, this is very different, but this is also through Maryland Health Connection. In order to qualify for Medicaid, you basically, unless you're pregnant, if you're pregnant and even if you're undocumented and you're pregnant, you can still get Medicaid for your pregnancy. So we encourage you definitely to apply if you're pregnant. And only certain immigration statuses qualify an individual to receive Medicaid. In most situations, unless you're a child under age 21, you have to be a green card holder or a lawful permanent resident for 5 years in order to qualify for Medicaid. So you saw how many statuses are eligible for a private plan. That is different. This is for Medicaid, which is free health insurance from the state or very low cost. If you're over 21, you have to have completed 5 years as a green card holder. If you're under the age of 21, you are not subject to the 5-year requirement. So children that are green card holders do not have to meet the 5-year requirement. And then similarly, pregnant women are of any immigration status, including undocumented immigrants, are also eligible for Medicaid. So for more information about that, you can jump to the next slide. There's this link here as well, and we'll share the slides that you can find the social service offices in person. If you've had a recent medical emergency, you may also be able to apply for Medicaid. And you could do that under, it's called emergency medical coverage, to help you cover the cost of that ER bill. And for that, we recommend you apply at your local social service offices. And then on the next slide, I just wanted to go over how you can enroll now. Open enrollment, enrollment in Medicaid is open year round, but if you're interested in applying for a private, maybe you have one of the immigration statuses we talked about, enrollment for private plans is from November 1st through January 15th. But right now we have the easy enrollment program on the next slide. If you haven't filed your taxes yet, you can, when you file your taxes before April 15th, you want to check a box on your taxes that says you're interested in finding out if you're eligible for health coverage. And you check that box, and then we'll look at the way you filed your taxes and your income based on last year, and we'll send you a letter about your eligibility based on your income. So that's one way you could apply now. You can jump to the next slide, which goes into a little bit more details about that. And then on the next slide, we also have some additional special enrollment periods. So let's say that you recently changed your income, you've lost your job, you can apply now. If you apply within 60 days of a life event, like losing your job or losing your health coverage, or if maybe your income went up and you're not eligible for Medicaid anymore, then you would have 60 days to enroll in a private plan. So there's many ways that you can enroll in healthcare year round. Again, our health system as well as our immigration system is complex, so we definitely recommend that you apply. On the next slide, I have listed again, just like in the beginning, all the ways that we're here to help you. Online, with brokers, with free in-person help, and through our call center. So don't hesitate to apply and try to find some help. And I will stay on to answer any questions at the end as well. Thank you. Oh, here's my information, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have specific questions as well. Thank you.
Jenny, thank you for that great information. And our last speaker is also my colleague, Ms. Patricia Dorn, Health Insurance Administrator.
Thank you, Gia. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patty Dorn, and I am with the Maryland Insurance Administration. I'm going to talk to you about individual and family health insurance plans that comply with the Affordable Care Act. Next slide, please. So this presentation does not provide legal advice, and you should discuss specific questions with your trusted financial advisor or insurance producer. Next slide. So to be eligible to purchase plans through the Maryland Health Connection, MHC, that is the entity that you can purchase the plans that are regulated by the Affordable Care Act in the state of Maryland. And so to be eligible to purchase through the Maryland Health Connection, it's also who Jenny, who just talked, works for. You need to live in Maryland. You need to be a U.S. citizen and be lawfully present, not be incarcerated or incarcerated pending disposition. So if you are present in the US under certain immigration statuses, or if you have applied for certain lawfully present statuses, you may be eligible to enroll in a private health plan through the Maryland Health Connection. Again, our state, Maryland's official health insurance marketplace. So that's a quick summary on purchasing plans through the Maryland Health Connection. Next slide, please. However, you can still apply for health coverage through the Maryland Health Connection, even if not all of your family members have an immigration status that qualifies them for coverage. Individuals who are not requesting coverage will not be asked about their immigration status. You do not need a Social Security number or an individual taxpayer identification number, an ITIN, to apply for this coverage. However, if you're requesting financial help and file taxes, you will be asked to provide your Social Security number or SSN. So there's more information here. And again, Jenny went over that with you. This link is available and these slides will be available after this presentation. Next slide. All right, so this is important. Marylanders can purchase the exact same ACA policies, so the Affordable Care Act policies, the ACA compliant individual or family health insurance plans that are available from the Maryland Health Connection. You can buy those directly from insurance companies. Okay, you can go directly to the insurance company. You can use the Maryland Health Connection or you can buy them directly from the insurance company. Again, the Maryland Health Connection has those restrictions on the ability to sell policies to those without a legal immigration status. Okay, there are restrictions to purchase these policies from the Maryland Health Connection without a legal immigration status, but you can purchase the exact same plans directly from the insurance companies. Okay, so that is the takeaway here. And we're going to go through the information on how to purchase a plan from an insurance company directly. Next slide. So buying an individual or purchasing family coverage outside of the Maryland Health Connection, no matter what your immigration status is, and if you don't have an immigration status, you can buy the same coverage directly from the insurance company or through licensed agents and brokers throughout Maryland. This is the information. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to read the phone numbers here. I'm going to skip reading the URLs out loud, but again, you can get that information from the slides. You can also send me an email for that information at patricia.dorn@maryland.gov, and I will put that information in the chat. So from Aetna off marketplace plans can be purchased by calling 1-844-374-5217. And there's also URL information on the screen. You can purchase from Care First directly. You can find the information on their HMO and PPO plans by visiting their website. And you can also call 1-800-544-8255 8703 or local 410-356-8000. So those are the phone numbers that you can call to purchase directly from the insurance companies and not from the Maryland Health Connection. Again, if you want those URLs, send an email, get a hold of those slides, and it'll have that information. Next slide. Kaiser Foundation as well. Kaiser Permanente, the off-marketplace plans, can be purchased by calling 1-800-488-3590. And with United Healthcare, they also sell policies both on and off the exchange, and you can purchase those by calling 1-800-338-9248. You can also work with a broker to purchase those plans from United Healthcare. If you do choose to work with an agent or a broker, you need to make sure that they are licensed to sell health insurance plans in Maryland, and you can find that information on our website, insurance.maryland.gov. Next slide. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about a couple other options that are available with regards to health insurance that you can purchase. The plans, the ACA plans on and off the Maryland Health Connection, those are plans that comply with the regulations of the Affordable Care Act. You also have short-term limited duration insurance plans. These are major medical coverage, but they only last for a short time. They're bridge policies. The short-term disability or the short-term limited duration policies in Maryland end after 3 months, and they cannot be renewed. The policies are designed to fill gaps in coverage when an individual is switching from one health insurance plan to another. For example, you retired just a couple months before you qualified for Medicare, or you took a short break between an old and new job. Those are just examples. If a short-term limited duration insurance policy makes sense for you, then I would definitely make sure that you thoroughly understand it. And I would not hesitate for a second to reach out to the Maryland Health Connection for more information to help you understand that policy. Next slide, please. So are the short-term limited duration policies required to comply with Federal Affordable Care Act, ACA requirements that major medical plans must follow? These policies are not required to comply with federal ACA requirements, although they must cover certain benefits required under Maryland state law. Because these policies do not have to comply with the ACA, the insurance company may ask health questions in your application, and the plan may contain pre-existing condition limitations. A pre-existing condition limitation means that the policy may not cover medical expenses due to a medical condition you had before the policy started, okay? So this is underwriting. They're gonna ask you questions, and they can limit your coverage based on your pre-existing conditions for these. That is not something that the policies that are sold on or off the exchange that comply with the ACA can do. These policies may include a dollar limit on your healthcare benefits, right? So maybe there's $100,000 limit, $1 million limit. That's also another thing that the plans under the Affordable Care Act cannot do. Again, these are short-term plans. This is a bridge. This is 90 days. This is something that you might purchase in a situation where you just need a bridge to a more robust insurance policy. Next slide, please. All right.
Okay, so it looks like we may have briefly lost Patty, but limited benefit health insurance plans. There are several types of health insurance available from companies in Maryland that are not.
There are other plans.
Okay, there she is.
There are several type major medical health insurance. Okay, so Hey Joyce, real quick, can you tell me where I froze?
On this slide.
All right, I'll start over, guys. So the limited benefit health insurance. So there are several types of health insurance available from companies in Maryland that are not major medical health insurance plans. So again, the major medical health insurance plans, the ACA plans, the short-term limited duration plans. With the limited benefit health insurance plans, these all include limited benefits, and the plans are not obligated to cover the health benefits required for major medical plans under federal law. These plans are called accepted benefits. Next slide, please. Accepted benefit plans are not equal options to major medical plans. So yes, they are available for you to purchase. No, they are not equal to the plans that you can purchase on or off the exchange that are regulated by the Affordable Care Act, and they're not equal to the short-term limited duration plans. But they can help you pay a portion of your healthcare costs in situations where, and this is really important, if you do not have access to health insurance through employment and you do not have access to health insurance through a parent or a spouse, and you don't qualify for Medicare, Medicaid, or another government program, and you do not have the financial resources to purchase a major medical health insurance plan from the Maryland Health Connection on or off the exchange. So before you consider one of these limited benefit plans as your sole source of insurance, make sure that you don't have access to health insurance through any of these other means. Because remember, it's going to be, the benefits are going to be limited. The benefits are going to be less than the health benefits that you're going to get through all of these other means. With regards to these limited benefit health insurance programs, some people have health insurance through work. Maybe they have purchased through the Maryland Health Connection, and they purchase one of these policies alongside those policies to give them extra benefits, to help them cover the co-pays, etc. There are reasons that sometimes people have both. But if you're considering a limited benefit insurance plan as your sole source of health insurance, make sure that you've checked these boxes and that you don't qualify for these other situations. And also you need to make sure that you understand the policy. Next slide. And so this is the point that I want to make here. It's important that if you are interested in purchasing these plans, you need to clearly understand what you're purchasing, and you need to understand that these plans have fewer benefits and fewer consumer protections under the law. You shouldn't hesitate to talk to the Maryland Insurance Administration. You can reach out to us at 1-800-492-6116 to discuss these products. I encourage you to do so if you're the least bit confused, if you're looking at one of these products. They have names like, it could be a cancer policy, it could be an indemnity policy, it could be accidental death and dismemberment policies. If you're thinking about using those as a sole source of health insurance, make sure you understand the products. Reach out to the Maryland Insurance Administration to help you understand. Next slide. All right, this is the link. It'll take you to all that information about the ACA, about purchasing these policies off of the Maryland Health Connection, short-term limited duration policies, as well as these limited benefit policies. Next slide. I think this is just our information on the next one. Yep, this is the same slide that Josue showed earlier with the Maryland Insurance Administration. And I think I'm going to pass it over to Josue for the Q&A. Or Gia. Sorry, Gia.
It's okay. Thank you, Patty, for that great information. If anyone has any questions, this will begin the Q&A portion of the presentation. And we already have a few. I think Jenny answered them, though. Let's see. Would a child obtain a permanent resident card be eligible for Medicaid? Yes, we will be sending out the slides. They will be available on our website within a few days. Where can Afghan I-130 LPRs, family-based, over 65, and here under 5 years, find affordable healthcare options? Are they eligible for Medicaid, Medicare, et cetera? And Jenny answered both of those questions. Are there any additional questions? Okay, because it does look like we ran a little bit over time. And seeing no further questions, I would like to thank all of our wonderful speakers for their time today and providing us with such valuable information. Thank you to everyone that attended today's event. To make sure that we continue to provide good quality and informative events, we would like to extend a survey to you guys, which will help us to reach a wider audience. So if everyone could take a moment to complete the survey, which will be in the chat, that would be great. Those calling in by phone, we understand that you are unable to complete the survey. As I stated, the recording will be on our website in the next few days. You can also find out more about our upcoming events on our website. Please follow us on all social media platforms. We hope that you will join us for our next Lunch with Me event on Tuesday, April 9th at noon as we discuss financial education, taxes, and homeowners insurance. This presentation will be in Spanish only. And once everyone has completed the survey, that will end today's presentation. Thank you again for your time. Have a great day.